The following is a speech by John Fremont-Smith, founder and chief executive officer of Friends Wealth Management. It is called The Next Play. Today is July 23rd. At 2 a.m, there is no crowd, no marching band, no television camera, no scoreboard counting down. There is only the light from a computer screen, a stack of legal documents, and a founder reading every definition, every number, and every cross-reference one more time. Not because anybody will applaud, not because anybody will ever know how many hours it took, but because the documents have to be right. The structure has to be right. The law matters. Compliance matters. And when universities, athletes, families, and investors place their trust in you, almost right is not good enough. For the last 48 hours, I have been doing exactly that. Reading, questioning, correcting, refusing to place a document in front of another human being until it accurately describes what Friends Wealth Management is building. That may not look like sports, but anyone who has ever played knows exactly what it is. It is the film room after everyone else has gone home. It is the early morning skate when the rink is still dark. It is the final rep after practice has ended. It is triple sessions in August when your legs are gone, the heat is rising off the field, and you are throwing up through your face mask. But the whistle blows again, so you put your helmet back on. I learned that lesson early. I was the youngest of 9 children. By the time I reached high school, our head coach was a man everyone called the Bear. He had already coached my brothers Joe, Peter, and Michael, so when I arrived, there was no hiding, no shortcut, no excuse. The Bear did not care what your last name was. He cared whether you showed up, whether you finished the drill, whether your teammates could trust you when you were exhausted, hurting, and out of answers. Because character is not what you say when the room is comfortable. Character is what remains when the room gets hard. That lesson followed me from Brookline High School to Boston University. It followed me onto a Division I football field. It followed me through injuries, recovery, graduation, and every moment when walking away would have been easier than taking the next step. And it followed me into financial markets. I worked in the World Trade Center while the internet was being built around us. I traded through the dot-com bubble. I watched new technologies create extraordinary possibilities. I also watched what happened when excitement moved faster than discipline, when stories moved faster than facts, and when markets moved faster than the rules built to protect people. For more than 25 years, I worked inside regulated financial institutions. I passed the examinations. I lived under the rules. I represented firms, investors, and clients whose trust had to be earned every day. And I learned something that has never left me. Markets do not become trustworthy because somebody calls them innovative. They become trustworthy when the rules are clear, when the risks are disclosed, when the numbers can be examined, when responsibility can be traced, and when somebody is willing to stand behind every word on the page. 3 years ago, I began looking at college athletics through that lens, and what I saw was a historic transformation. Athletes were finally gaining new opportunities to participate in the economics created around their talent, identity, and work. Universities were being asked to share revenue, retain talent, improve facilities, support women's and Olympic sports, satisfy donors, protect their missions, and remain nationally competitive. Coaches were being asked to manage rosters in a market where money can speak loudly, and talented young people can walk. The entire game had changed, but the financial playbook had not kept up. Universities were still being handed the same limited choices. Ask the same donors for another contribution, cut another program, delay another facility, move money from one institutional priority to another, or accept capital on terms that may not fully align with the university's mission. I kept asking one question. Why are those the only choices? Why should an institution have to choose between falling behind and giving away control? Why should a fan's only financial role be to donate more, buy another ticket, or purchase another jersey? Why should athletes, coaches, athletic directors, presidents, trustees, and families be forced to make increasingly important decisions without a common, transparent framework for understanding value and risk? And why, in a country with the deepest capital markets in the world, had almost nobody asked the most basic question of all? What if you could lend? What if properly qualified investors could provide capital for projects defined by the university? What if that capital could be structured legally, compliantly, and transparently? What if the institution could identify the need, the use of proceeds, the potential revenue supporting repayment, and the terms under which the capital would be used? What if capital could serve the mission without controlling it? That question became the beginning of Friends Athletic Credit Strategies, FRAX, not a collective, not private equity, not another donation platform, another option. An effort to build university-centered credit strategies designed to operate within applicable securities laws, institutional policies, conference rules, and the evolving framework governing college athletics. But credit alone is not enough. A functioning market also needs a way to understand institutional risk. It needs a way to evaluate the durability of revenues, ticket demand, facilities, governance, conference position, donor dependency, financial obligations, and commitment to the entire athletic department. That is why we began developing the Risk Assessment Rating, RAR, A human-reviewed framework intended to help institutions and qualified participants ask better questions before a financial decision is made. And the market also needs a more disciplined way to think about athlete value. Not simply a number pulled from the air, not a promise made in a recruiting conversation, not a decision based only on fear that somebody else will pay more. Performance matters, role matters, character matters, reputation matters, marketability matters, institutional fit matters, compliance risk matters, trust matters. That is why we began developing the Athlete Investment Profile, AIP, a framework intended to support better human decisions, not to replace coaches, not to replace athletic directors, not to reduce an athlete to an algorithm, and never to make decisions in the dark, because the future should not be another black box. Money goes in, money comes out. Nobody can clearly explain who approved what, how value was determined, what risks were accepted, or whether the outcome matched the original promise. That is not the future we are trying to build. We are building a glass box, a structure where people can ask, where did the capital come from? What is it being used for? Who authorized it? How was risk assessed? What revenues may support repayment? Who monitors the process? What happens when the assumptions change? And can every important decision be explained to the university, the athlete, the family, the investor, the regulator, and the public? External counsel, independent administration, human review, documented approvals, auditable records, clear separation of responsibilities, sunlight before capital moves. That is the standard. Not because transparency is fashionable, because trust requires evidence. Now let me be equally clear about where we are. FRAX, RAR, and AIP remain in development and prototype. We are not standing here pretending that every answer has already been discovered. We are standing here because the only responsible way to build something this important is to build it with the institutions and people it is intended to serve. Friends Wealth Management is seeking one aligned development partner from each division of college athletics, partners willing to test the assumptions, challenge the underwriting, improve the data, examine the technology, strengthen the legal and compliance architecture, and help us determine what works in the real world before anyone claims that the work is finished. That is how responsible markets are built. Not through hype, through testing, not through secrecy, through evidence, not by pretending risk does not exist, by identifying it, explaining it, managing it, and documenting the decision. For 3 years, I have asked for meetings, asked for introductions, asked for callbacks, asked for 10 minutes to explain why college athletics may need another financial option. From this moment forward, I am done asking permission to say that the problem exists. I am not done listening. I am not done learning. I am not done correcting the documents, and I will never be done respecting the law. But I am done waiting for someone else to decide whether this problem deserves a solution. Bullies exist in every arena. They rely on confusion. They rely on gatekeeping. They rely on the belief that good people will eventually become tired, lower their heads, and walk away. We will not answer bullying with more bullying. We will answer it with sunlight, with discipline, with documentation, with transparency, and with another option. College athletics does not need another group arriving to announce that it has all the answers. It needs helpers. People willing to stand beside universities, athletes, coaches, families, and fans while the next system is being built. That is why we named the firm Friends. We are your friends. We are here to help. When the path becomes difficult, look for the helpers. And when the noise becomes loud, do not forget who your friends are. My hope is that someday, years from now, my great-great-grandchildren will hear this story, not because one man gave a speech, not because one company had an idea, but because universities, athletes, investors, lawyers, technologists, administrators, coaches, and fans came together and built something worthy of their trust. Maybe they will look back on this moment as one small foundation stone in the creation of the athletic credit markets in the United States, a transparent market, a disciplined market, a market built to serve institutions rather than control them, a market aligned with athletes, a market that respects the rules, a market in which fans can become more than spectators, a market where capital can help preserve opportunities, strengthen programs, finance responsible growth, and support the future of college athletics. That future will not be built in one speech. It will not be built in one night, and it will not be built by one person. It will be built the same way everything meaningful is built. One conversation, one partner, one document, one decision, one honest rep at a time. College sports changed. The financial playbook has to change with it. Legally, compliantly, transparently, athlete-aligned, university-aligned, designed to work within the rules, empowered by the people who have always made college sports matter. The fans. Friends Wealth Management has spent 3 years building toward this moment. Now it is time to take the field. Another option for universities. A glass box, not a black box. Capital serving the mission, not controlling it. And one question that may help define the next era of college athletics. What if you could lend? This is the next play. Frax trademark, RAR trademark, and AIP trademark remain in development and prototype. This presentation is for informational purposes only and is not an offer to sell or a solicitation to purchase any security. Any future offering would be made only through definitive offering documents to eligible and properly verified investors and where lawful. No university, conference, or governing body endorsement is implied.